Hey everybody, so Jon David had a decent night last night. He stayed critically stable through the night, but then as we got to this morning, he needed more vent support because his tidal volumes were going down, which is how big the breaths are that he's getting, because he was getting more fluid in his lungs. And so they met this morning and did a conference with all the different disciplines and had the medical team kind of talk about it. And then when we had rounds, they were debating on whether or not it should be today or Monday, depending on kind of what situations are going on. And they ended up deciding, he's not gonna be able to wait till Monday. Excuse me. And so they planned for an emergency cath today, got him in, and then placed a stent in his aorta. And the reason why it was so tricky in the placement of it was if it goes too low, it would block the valve of blood flow coming out of his heart. If it was too high, it would basically intervene with other blood vessels that it didn't need to intervene with. And so it was a very tight window of where it needed to be placed. And we had a wonderful doctor who placed it for us and a wonderful team. And they actually did it a little different than a normal cath. A normal cath, like the one that he had last week, went through his leg, through his femoral artery, and went all the way up. And then that's how they did the diagnostic, did the ballooning of the aorta. This one, they went in through his neck. So they got surgery to basically cut open his carotid and open it up. And then they call it sheathing it. And so they sheathed it. And then they slid in through there and went down to his heart and put the stent in. Now, since that has happened, we got the news around 3 o'clock that the cath was done. It took a little over an hour and a half. And so it got done. He came back to the room and he has peed more since coming back. He got back to the room about 4 p.m. He's peed more between 4 p.m. and now, and it's about 11 o'clock, than he has probably the 48 hours before that all combined together. So he is loving having blood flow to his kidneys. He was not obviously getting really good blood flow there before now. And so his body is now letting go of that fluid. He's had like 2 100 plus milliliter diapers, and he's got a third one in there right now that they're probably gonna wait till about midnight to take off of him. He is still on paralytic, but the talk that we just had at rounds not too long ago was that he'll probably come off paralytic at midnight, or at least trial coming off paralytic at midnight, which typically he does better off paralytic than he does on it. But the good news here is that he's been on the same vent setting since he came back at 4 p.m. and his tidal volumes when he came back were upper 5s, low 6s. And while ago, he's hitting low to mid 8s, which means that his lungs are getting rid of that fluid. It's pushing it out. And also the big part of it was his aorta was so small that what was happening was blood flow was backing up into his lungs. And it didn't really have anywhere to go because it couldn't go past that aorta because it was so tight. So his aorta, where it was coming out of the heart, was roughly 4 millimeters. And a normal is 8 to 11 millimeters. And so when they put the stent in, his is now 8 millimeters. So it basically doubled in size. So his body is absolutely loving having more blood flow because he had literally half or less than half of the blood flow that he should have been getting of a typical heart healthy person. So right now seems to be doing really well. We're very thankful for that. We're very happy for that. Praise God, praise medical team. Again, they did a phenomenal job. And at this point, it's just praying that he will continue progressing. And that's kind of what the goal is right now. So if y'all would pray for these 3 things. 1, that he will continue progressing forward. Specifically, that he'll continue peeing. 2, that his lungs will continue clearing out and getting stronger so that way he can wean down on the vent and start getting back on the path to extubation, meaning taking the ventilator tube out and coming off the ventilator. And then 3, if you'll pray for all the kids and families who are battling CHD, which is congenital heart defects, because it is incredibly tough. It's been a rough, 24 hours up here. There have been a lot of bells going off. So, and that's how it goes up here. It goes in waves. And so it is a rough journey. So if you know anybody who's going through this, check in on them because they need it. Just throwing that out there. If you pray for them because they need it. Now that being said, one last thing before we get going. Hunter today had a pretty good day. He spent the day with Grammy and Pop Pop, and then he was supposed to come up here tomorrow actually, and ended up not being able to because of the emergency cath today, and we didn't know exactly how that was going to go. So then we had a friend, Danielle, who called and was like, hey, do you want me to take him this weekend? Can I help out by taking him? And we were like, sure. So Pop Pop took her down and he's with her, and then he got to hang out with his buddy Gatlin, who is Miss Danielle's son, and he's having a ball. But that's been Hunter's day. So again, we are very blessed to have a wonderful support system that allows Hunter to still be a 3-year-old kid and doesn't have to necessarily be here, spend all this time in the ICU. And it also allows us to spend time with Jon David and advocate for him, because we can be here and do that. But we would not be able to do that without our support system, which also needs to be thrown out that Mama Kathy, has been out here all day dealing with this, because again, this was not planned. She was supposed to be somewhere else, but she has been here because we have needed her here. And again, this was an emergency cath, wasn't planned. If he had been following the trajectory that he had from last weekend on into like Monday, Tuesday, the plan had been that we might even be trying to extubate this weekend, because he was almost on full feeds at Tuesday. And so, you know, he has thrown another curveball. Thankfully, the medical team has handled it. He is progressing, and so we're just going to continue praying that he does continue in that direction. Also, Kathy told me I was required to put this in here, and I almost forgot it. Today was the first day that I left the hospital I honestly don't remember the last time I left the hospital, but it's been a while. And so went out and got something to eat with Mallory and came back, and Kathy told me I was required to put this in here because there've been some people worried about me staying in the ICU as long as I have, which quite honestly for me is fine. It doesn't bother me to the extent that it bothers me more not being here when he is critical. When he's less critical and he's stable, I don't really have a problem leaving. But when he is like he's been the last several days, I'm not going to leave. And so it causes me more anxiety not to be here than to be here. And while the sleep is not the greatest, I can catch up on sleep later. At that point, he needs me there. So again, that's why I needed to add this in here, because I told her I would. So that's when you see the picture of me being outside, that's why it's important, because I actually got out of this place for a little bit. But that's all I got for y'all tonight. Hope y'all have a good night. God bless, and y'all choose Hope daily. We'll see you tomorrow. And Jon David, tell everybody bye-bye.